Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Menachem Creditor. It is my honor to serve as Scholar in Residence for UJ Federation of New York. We come to you Monday through Friday, every weekday, 9 o'clock in the morning, to wish each other a good day, to have a little bit of heart, a little bit of hope, a little bit of learning, a little bit of singing, just to start the day off with each other and with some purpose. So, welcome everyone. Got my white shirt on, which must mean today's Friday and Shabbos is coming. And if the sunshine is any indication, it's going to be quite a nice one. So I hope that you are near a window, breathing in some good air, ready to start the day with a little bit of purpose. Today is also Juneteenth, a holiday that commemorates the end of slavery. And so if you were expecting today at 2 o'clock for us to have our community-wide Shabbat Shalom, I hope that you will make the choice, as we did, to be part of learning and a growing awareness around what Juneteenth symbolizes, which is a day that slavery ended, but clearly end is too big a word for the long shadow of a deep, deep sin upon which America was founded, actually. So I say all that as framing so that when we enter into the moment of blessing and enter into each other's company, we do so with an awareness that blessings aren't to be taken for granted, and they are meant to be shared. So, let's take a deep breath, know that this blessing comes with responsibility, and then let's sing it together. So what I want to do is have Shabbat be the frame for today's conversation. Shabbat itself is beautiful. It is a big gift in the world to have what Abraham Joshua Heschel called an armistice with technology. And in our moment, what a thing to think about. An armistice with technology means we make a peace treaty with things that buzz and things that blink. And given that the way that we connect to each other and the world right now is through things that buzz and things that blink, what does it mean to have an armistice with technology? It used to mean, because Heschel didn't know from cell phones when he was writing this, and obviously the Torah doesn't know from turning on lights with such ease. The origin of this notion was, in the Torah it says, Lo tavaru esh, don't burn a fire, don't start a fire in your dwelling place. And the reason for that, we understand, is that fire is the primal creative act. Even in Greek mythology, the notion of Prometheus stealing fire from the heavens, from the gods, to give to people means that we wage, not war, it's the wrong word, but we labor in the world as creators, and fire is one of the prime ways in which we do that. That's why we begin Shabbat with candles, and we end Shabbat with candles, fire and fire. And by illuminating our own hands at the end of Shabbat, and by using our hands to cover our eyes, we indicate that even the sight of the fire ignites a creative impulse within us, or it's supposed to. Well, when Shabbat is recited, right? When we bless wine, when we make Kiddush on Shabbat, we invoke two different things. We invoke Zecher L'Maaseh Breshit. This is a reminder of the act of creation of the universe, and Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim. This is to remind us of the exodus from Egypt. Both of those things have one really important theme in common, which is all of us were equal when there was only one ancestor. And in fact, according to Midrash, that's how we're supposed to understand why God created one person, so that no one could say that their ancestors were better than anyone else's. All of us have the same ancestor. When it comes to Egypt, Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim, to remember the exodus from Egypt, we're told 36 times in the Torah to be kind and just with a stranger, because we know what it was to be a stranger in a strange land. But what does that mean? It means even when you are in a place, you can be othered. We know what it is to have been othered. Now, I say that humbly because in this modern American Jewish context, identity is a pretty complicated thing. I grew up being asked all the time, are you a Jewish American? Are you an American Jew? Which is the noun? Which is the descriptor? Another way of saying that is your primary identity Jew? Is your primary identity American? That remains a complicated question, especially when being a Jew comes along with all of Jewish history, good and bad, and when being an American, especially in the current moment, brings all of its weight, all of its very difficult definitions. Both being a Jew, which is an ancient identity, is it's in process. Jew is more a verb than it is a noun. We are constantly re-understanding what it is, and given this current moment of history, how important it is to name that my Jewish identity is interwoven with all of my other aspects. And so, in history, Jews haven't been considered white. We've been considered other by racial definitions, which is another way of trying to reduce our dignity. Anti-Semitism can be understood as a deep othering and racism, even though Jew isn't exactly a race. That's why white nationalists chant things like, Jews shall not replace us, because according to the terrible forged document, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, Jews are part of a global conspiracy to make sure that people of color replace white people in positions of power. How important it is to understand that hate against one truly is hate against all, and that Jews have figured as part of the deepest hate movements, as victims, as scapegoats, as a face. But Jews forget that too. And so one of the reasons I invoke that is because while Jews have not been quite white in historic eyes, I'm not quite black through the eyes of America. And so my understanding of what this day means, and I mean Shabbat, has to be tempered. I must be humble in the way that I assert its meaning, because I don't know what it is, truly, to be a stranger in a strange land. I'm a fourth-generation American. I don't speak Yiddish. I know a little bit of Yiddish. I don't have any other notion other than I belong. There have been moments where as a Jew I've been pointed at and I've received hate, but not in the way that Jews of antiquity did, not in the way that my grandparents did. I've never wondered whether or not I'd be accepted. And because part of my identity, even though all of the things I've said are true, is that this is my body. When I see a police officer walking by, I don't worry in the way that I would were my skin black. If Shabbat is an armistice with technology, then I have to see myself as inhabiting creation, not channeling it. I am acted upon by my universe. And that means that if part of what I'm supposed to do is recognize Genesis, the creation, and Exodus, the liberation, I have to inhabit this world, remembering my history, that it wasn't always the way it is. And in so doing, remember that this armistice with technology is a reckoning with humanity. Am I a human being at core? All of these labels matter. I love being Jewish. I love teaching Torah. I love Jewish community. And at best, those things point me to a recognition that I'm created in the image of God and force me, remind me, give me the gift of knowing that so is everybody else. Being created in God's image is a human right, and therefore being treated as a human, as a divine image with incredible creative power to light a fire. That is what it is to be a human being. That is why I do what I do. And that is why, and today we are on UJ Federation of New York's Facebook page. That is why we do what we do. Because we know that the divine image is a human right and a Jewish responsibility to see the divine image in all people. And so today is Juneteenth, a day that we commemorate the end of slavery. A Union general rode into a town in Texas and declared all the slaves free. But as you and I know, and I only know so much, certainly not enough, I'll never truly understand. But as you and I know, the legacy of slavery is still alive today. Be it the monuments that glorify those who fought to keep black people slaves, be it the way we tell our history, be it the hate that is migrating online, be it hateful language that is all too alive in America today. This is not a day of celebrating that something ended. It's a day of commemorating that something began to end. Shabbos can be the answer, actually, because at core, think about what we do on Shabbat. We sing a new song. We sing a new song. Tonight, that's what we're gonna daven, we're gonna pray. So I want to end with a story that I read in a book by one of my teachers, Brian Stevenson. The book is called Just Mercy. I haven't yet seen the movie, but I hear it's remarkable. I had the honor, really, there's no other word for it, just to be in the presence of Brian Stevenson just a few months ago with some leaders from UJA who went on a civil rights mission to Selma and Montgomery. And we got to sit with him for a little bit of time. And he reminded me something that I want to amplify in his name. We were talking about hope and hopelessness, and we were talking about it before the pandemic began. We were talking about it before we watched George Floyd be murdered. We were talking about it before. But it wasn't before all of it had started. It was before so many new people started paying attention, including me. So we said, how do you have hope? If you follow his work creating incredible museums and memorials here in America to the lynchings that America perpetrated. He said, how do you have hope? And he said, hopelessness is the enemy of justice. I want to say it again. Hopelessness is the enemy of justice. So if you want to see justice, hope. This is a story that he tells at the beginning of the book. I'm not ruining it, trust me. I can't match his eloquence, his honesty, his testimony. You have to get this book. It's required reading. Bring a lot of tissues. And bring a resolve to do something with everything you learn. In the book, he talks about being a new lawyer who wanted to fight for civil rights, wanted to fight for human rights, and he was sent to tell someone who was on death row, whose execution date had been set for that day. He was sent to tell that person that they would not be executed that day. Not that they were found innocent, even though it turned out that the accusation was wrong and they were enslaved on false pretenses, wrongfully incarcerated. Brian Stevenson was sent to tell this man that he was not going to be killed that day. Now, when Stevenson pulled up to the jail, he parked next to a car with a very big Confederate flag, was marched in without any real respect going his way to meet with this prisoner, sat with the prisoner and told him that he was not going to be executed that day. And the prisoner started crying and got so excited to be alive for one more day. And Stevenson was overwhelmed with the gratitude that he was seeing, wishing that he had brought the actual news that he was going to be released, he would be free again. And Stevenson recounts how, as the guard roughly pulled the prisoner back from this moment and started shoving him out the door, the prisoner, I should stop calling him a prisoner, this human being in chains, planted his feet on the floor, looked up clearly to heaven through the roof, through the ceiling, and started singing a song of liberation. So until the whole world is free. That is a song we have not yet sung. But every Shabbos, I think we're supposed to practice it. Shabbos is about universal freedom. Shabbos is about starting again and creating the world the way it's supposed to be, knowing that the fire burns within every human soul. So let's resolve, right now, first of all, to be in Shabbos. An armistice with technology is not going to prevent me from looking at you and the world. And so things that buzz and things that blink can be a way of still being at peace with creation. I don't create on Shabbat. I experience on Shabbat. That's a big mindful difference. But in so doing, may we be created again this Shabbat. May we see our obligations in the world to channel some of God's power to protect all of God's images. That's our job. We don't hide from it. We see that fire. And these are the hands that are supposed to do the work. So let's get to work. Let's stand as witness. Let's stand as allies. Let us not only call out racism, let's be anti-racist in our actions. And I have a lot to learn so that I can be part of that in the right way. I hope that the words and the spirit that I've tried to share today have spoken appropriately, have spoken towards justice, and maybe even might help us move a little bit faster in that direction. So everybody, let's sing our way into Shabbat. See you at the UJA panel. We are part of a panel with Catholic Charities and others to talk about Juneteenth. See all the information in the comments on this post and on the Facebook page that you're on already. Can't wait to see you on Monday again at 9 o'clock. Let's do a Shabbos song. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. See you on Monday.